Joining me now from Washington, D.C., Acting Deputy Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Ken Cuccinelli. Ken, we're not there yet, but clearly these attacks on police, to me, is tantamount to an attack on Homeland Security. Little by little, if we continue to attack policing at home, at the street level, eventually it's going to creep to our national security, and our enemies are watching.
Well, certainly the first responsibility of government at every level is public safety, federal, state, and local. And you see the abandonment of that sometimes for long periods of time, sometimes short, at local and state levels. Certainly President Trump is not taking that approach. But let's break out what you said into two pieces. Actual intentional physical attacks on law enforcement for the purpose of hurting them and intimidating others, that's terrorism. It's the definition of it. So when you speak to Homeland Security, obviously the Department of Homeland Security was born out of 9/11 and to carry on the fight against terrorism here in the homeland at the United States of America. And the policy side, the defund police effort, is going to go nowhere, because it should go nowhere, because no neighborhood would survive the implementation of that policy. I saw an interesting poll, I don't spend a lot of time on them, among truckers. So talk about collateral consequences. And they were asked, would you go to a neighborhood where the police had defunded? Will you pick up or will you deliver? And 79% of them said absolutely not. So these neighborhoods not only won't survive from a public safety standpoint, but the businesses that try to continue to survive there will die. Right. And that's without being targeted by violent protesters.
It seems to me that the effort here is to effectively decriminalize crime to a certain degree. And you have to step back and you have to ask why, Mr. Secretary, why this is going on. To me, it's pretty clear. To institutionalize what Saul Alinsky and the other radicals would want, they want to institutionalize chaos in a civil society so that they can impose their radical ideology on us all and grow the size of government and feed this radical ideology into government so that we're all under this unfortunate non-constitutional umbrella.
Yeah, they do want to destroy every piece of the society and then rebuild it in their rather radical left-wing image. And you know, interestingly and sadly, lost in all of this are the sincere people who come out to peacefully express themselves over the death of George Floyd, for instance. They're overwhelmed by the violence and the inflamed rhetoric and so forth. So a constructive discussion is one of the victims of the violence and the attempt to do exactly what you just described, which is basically undercut the society in which we live entirely, so they can rebuild it in their radical left image.
Right, and if you were going to destroy a country, you would emasculate the military, which is what the left has been doing for many years now, at least attempting to do. You would work for open borders, which is what the left has been attempting to do for many, many years now. You would empty the jails, which is what the left is attempting to do. And you would vilify the police, which is what the left is attempting to do. There's one other element you would also infuse if you were trying to destroy a country, and that is you would take over the courts. And clearly the left has taken over X amount of the courts. There's a ruling out of the Supreme Court today that affects you and affects all Americans, but it certainly affects the Department of Homeland Security. And this has to do with the sanctuary status of California and other states. Apparently, the United States Supreme Court doesn't think that there's a problem, doesn't see what I see, and that is a nullification of the United States Constitution by states like California declaring themselves a sanctuary for people who have violated our sovereignty, broken our laws, and come in and live here illegally.
Yeah, what it doesn't do is stop us in the federal government from actually enforcing those laws. And what it does allow that state to do is to set up laws of its own to bar their own employees from cooperating, which is quite novel in the last 150 years.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.